At home decided to watch some TV, listening to the news like Gordon Mosley, and listening to the things that he say he tracked in tonight, paying close attention to make sure I hear it right. But when I hear the things that he mentioned on the news, I have to declare, them kind of thing got me confused. I hear some things where the ERC noticing, and it convinced me that people ain't learning nothing. We hear so many times about them big name calling, and they say ERC pretend that they didn't hear nothing. But once you're black, and you just decide to say a word or two, bet your life on that, they say ERC coming for you. Listen to the things you just hear on social media. Only one set of people allowed to talk in one Guyana. I still say nothing, black people in learning. But this is my concern, I hope one day black people will learn. ERC that I would like to know, if any of his members happens to be black people. And if that is the case, I want them to answer this call. Tell me how come none of them ain't got no voice at all. You're showing signs of weakness and you're afraid to be fair, and we see the same thing keep happening year after year. And the day will come when all this nonsense will stop. That will be the day when black people decide to wake up. Not so long ago, something terrible happened. This young Indian man want to kill out all black people by poison. But if his shoes was on the other foot, what a day and they tread. But up to this day, this ERC can't do nothing as yet. How come it's only black people committing cybercrime? Then pretty on social media fussing people all the time. I still saying black people in learning, but one day will come when the entire table will turn. Issues we see that fail to condemn, because these people think that the law is only for them. And anybody else who decide to file a complaint, they go call you a racist and don't want to hear nothing. Plenty complaint from time to time has been brought to their attention, but because of this one-sided cybercrime, is why they don't show any concern. There's only one set of people that they really care about, and black people must take the abuse and shut them out. The Daddy Amsterdam went to court just recently for an issue that was highlighted by the same ERC. And with pretext, the police decide to jump on his case. Without a search warrant, they went and search up the man's place. Let us all agree that black people under attack. Different laws for you and me just because we black. I still singing. Black people in London. To all my black friends, we must put a stop to all this nonsense. Cybercrime laws to keep people silent, just to make sure nobody criticizes this government. And while that is a very clear case of dictatorship, it is no surprise that the ERC ignoring it. Why only the chosen few is allowed to have things their way, when people like me and you must have nothing to say? And when ministers in the government start to launch their attack, you never hear this ERC come out and talk about that. They send a policeman all the way to New York. This fella went up there to serve a customer non-brick for board. Under this this government decide to fabricate that case, but like they forget the warning they get from Latisha James. The vice president described that he used as a low life. Because of this kind of abuse, he don't have a wife. I still singing. Black people in learning. Just the other day, I hope your man see help is on the way.
It's karaoke and oldies night this and every Thursday with Al Christie and popular DJs at Club Twilight Sideline down Buxton North.
Here, trust me, if you are on the East Coast, you're in Buxton, you're in Tongue, you're looking for a place to get away to, this is the place. The Cutters, and then of course the ambience is beautiful, fully air conditioned, the decor is on point, the music's on point, everything's on point. So if you want to find a nice little place where you can just drive out of town and have some drinks, have some food, you can call, you can order your stuff and just take it. You don't have to stay. Or if you want to stay here, that's what's up. And of course, they have special events for Valentine's. You can rent a hall. You can rent a hall, honey. You can rent a hall for weddings, for birthday parties, to have a bash. I hope he edits that out. But you know, whatever it is, this is definitely the place to be. So it's on Sideline Dam. You definitely want to ensure that you check this place out. But it's on your to-do list. All right, on your to-do list. This is definitely the place to check out, you know, a really cool, chill spot here in Buxton. I like this. This is Buxton needed this. We needed this. I needed this. You definitely needed too. All right, so today we are here at Club Twilight up in Buxton, and we are here to talk about all that's going on up here. Trust me, if you are on the East Coast, you're in Buxton, you're in Tongue, you're looking for a place to get away to, this is the place. The Cutters, listen, I'll be having some just now again. We'll talk about that. And then, of course, the ambience is beautiful, fully air conditioned. The decor is on point. The music's on point. Everything's on point. It's just me. I need some work. But everything else that belongs to this club here is on point. So if you want to find a nice little place where you can just drive out of town and have some drinks, have some food, you can call, you can order your stuff and just take it. You don't have to stay. Or if you want to stay here, that's what's up. And of course, they have special events for Valentine's. Valentine's. You can rent a hall. You can rent a hall, honey. You can rent a hall for weddings, for birthday parties, to have a bash. I hope he edits that out. But whatever it is, this is definitely the place to be. So it's on Sideline Dam. You definitely want to ensure that you check this place out. But it's on your to-do list. All right, on your to-do list. This is definitely the place to check out, a really cool, chill spot here in Buxton. I like this. Buxton needed this. We needed this. I needed this. You definitely need it too. Thank you.
Stop running around like headless chicken. Go to Ashton's Marketplace for whole and cut chicken, beef, pork, processed meats like bacon, beef franks, smoked ham, ground pork, calabresa, and lots more. Ashton's offers wholesale and retail. Check them out. Call 613-2332 or WhatsApp 434-327-3955. Ashton's Marketplace at 72 Rob Street, Border.
All right, so you might be wondering where we are. Still in Buxton at Club Twilight. That's where we are. So Club Twilight also has like an Airbnb as well. So you could come, drink, drunk, and come in the back here and lie down. Look at that. Look at that. Perfection. And the people come in the room and so on. The bed sheet matching the blind, matching the carpet, matching the this, matching the that. We know but we things in Buxton don't play with we. So definitely if you want to come and you may be having a wedding or whatever and you just want to overnight and just have a good time because you're going to be drunk. We got too much road accidents. So you definitely want to come, drink, have a good time. They have several rooms that you can rent. You have your toilet, you have your bath, you have your sink, you have your dining area, you have the bed. This is nice. I like it. Anyways, to my friends and my family, if you're looking for me, I'll be overnighting. Also for those persons who are traveling in from overseas, you want a nice, cozy place out of town, then Club Twilight, call them up, look them up on social media. They have their own Facebook page, and ensure that you come up the side and have a good time. Have a good time. Have a good time. I'm sorry. That's it.
Don't be a victim. Beat the heat with EC Crystals. Party ice in large and small quantities. Call 682-7981 or visit us at Club Twilight, Sideline Dam, Buxton North. EC Crystals, pure party ice. You can get meat anywhere, but for the best cuts of chicken, beef, pork, mutton, and lots more, check out T&W Harris Butcher Shop, located in the East Rheinveld Market Meat Section. Call us on 609-7168, 641-4494. Ask for Rastaman. T&W Harris Butcher Shop for the best in fresh cut meats and lots more. Planning a party? Worry no more. We have all the supplies you need. At EC Party Rentals, we have folding chairs, folding tables, square tables, round tables, long tables, short tables, big tables. We have chairs, red chairs, gold chairs, white chairs, crystal chairs, chairs of all type, throne chairs. What you want, we have. Food warmers, coolers, ice, beverages. At EC Party Rentals, we have what you need to have a good time. You plan the party, we do the work. Call us 622-5933. EC Party Rentals. Let's keep your party going.
Morning, neighbor, morning, are you morning? Welcome to another program of Guyanese Morning Time. I am your host, Skinner Kiamsam. It is now 7:25 on the 6th day of February in the year 2025. I am your host. How are you doing? How you been? How was you yesterday? How was your last night? How you wake up feeling this morning? Are you feeling energized? Do you think you are ready for another bout of the PPP? What are they? What you are thinking? What you are liking the corruption and the corruption revelations? By the way, Brutus is no longer, or no. Somebody said Brutus gone. I say they would like to see Brutus gone. He ain't gone yet. Brutus is the kind of folk who will go down fighting. He ain't gone no easy going down fighting. Right? But that decision by the Police Service Commission, while it might be warranted, is just another example of the abuse that takes place in this country, the abuse that passes in this country for justice and good governance. Because there's so many things wrong with that dismissal. At least the processes leading up to that dismissal. That tribunal was a quack. I also learned from Promotional last night that the Police Service Commission is not properly constituted. And so from the time the current PPP administration took office, when it comes to dealing with the police and the Police Service Commission and so on, it is engaged in so many illegalities now that people might be blinded. They can't tell the difference from what is legal and what is illegal. What is my firm belief that an injustice has been done in terms of the conduct of the tribunal and the final outcome. Because if you don't have a properly constitutional body, how is it functioning? Right? I think the lawyers might call that, or I'm just stepping ahead of myself, fruits of the poison tree. If the process is poisoned, then the outcome is poisoned. And I'm guessing that Brutus is going to go to court on that. I am guessing Brutus is going to go to court. And so we got a court battle looming. The one thing is certain is he's not going to be reinstated, I can tell you that. But whether or not he will get compensation, that's another thing. Right, so we have to look at that. I'm not a champion for Brutus. I'm not a champion for people who have knowingly done wrong, whether on behalf of the government or on behalf of themselves. But I'm a champion for justice. Right? Justice must not only be done, it must appear to have been done. Yeah. So those are some things. And I noticed Sergeant Bascom was freed of cyberbullying charges in Georgetown. And then on the East Coast at Vigilance, he was found guilty. Right? If you ask me, same or similar facts being presented to two different magistrates, and the outcome is obviously different. So you have Bascom freed in Georgetown on cybercrime charges against for quote unquote cybercrime against Caesar and Rabindranath, I think the name might be. And then when a similar charge is read to him at Vigilance, Caesar and somebody else, he was found guilty. That matter has, according to the news, has been appealed. It has gone to the appeal court, the High Court appeal court. And so the magistrate was told to hold her hand. No sentencing until that matter is heard at the higher court. Let's see where that goes. Good. But y'all keep on paying attention to the corruption. Tomorrow I will give you all a laugh because I see it as laughable. The program is going to be ended at 8:30 this morning because I have an errand to run. And because of the nature in which Mr. Jordan communicates with the program, it won't be able to continue once I have to leave. Right? But that is that. So I'm calling Mr. Jordan right now so you can get at least a full hour with him. And I can head down the road. Mr. Jordan, good morning.
Good morning. Good morning to you. Thankful Thursday, man.
Thankful Thursday, man. That's why I'm watching the goings on, wondering if I could get a 30-acre land anyway to invest in.
Bye.
Or even
Bye.
110 to 30 acre, you know. But I guess you didn't have to end with mad or deal. So
I see in his resignation, Sharon Grieve says whatever you acquired, you work hard for.
Of course.
I will tend to believe all, particularly Chinese of African descent in this country, you had to work extremely hard for the very little. Because when you look around, you can't find too many Chinese of African descent who own anything worth shouting about. You know?
Yeah, the other angle I look at it from is dishonesty and thievery causes a lot of hard working. People believe it's easy work. The amount of, you know.
You're right, you know, I mean, because the effort that teams put in, the stealth and all the different combinations that they use to enter people's home or whatever, many times on cart and so on. That requires a brain that is overactive. You know, the ordinary brain doesn't sit down and work that out that easily. You know? But anyway, it's thankful Thursday and glad to be in the land of the living. You know, so many have passed over the last week. I see there are about 7 road accidents alone, all ending in deaths, and so we also have to be thankful for being alive. You know, and while at it, may I express condolences to one of my lawyers, Mr. Rizel Ford, who lost his mother, I think, last week. Condolences to him and his family and his relatives, and so on. And may she rest in peace.
Let me join you sending condolences. I wasn't aware.
Yes. It always works in 2s and 3s because this last year, sometime late last year, he lost his brother, you know, and now his mother. So, you know, I had that same experience also. So I understand and appreciate things. Loss of any loved one is always a major issue, much less loss of a mother. You know, that makes it worse. And I'm surprised that you, being a lover of the arts, you were active participant in the arts and so forth. You did not mention anything about or acknowledge the passing of Ken Carsby. Remember Ken Carsby?
Yeah, I remember Ken, but you know, sometimes I think I live in a bubble. I didn't even know Ken is dead.
Yeah, she died, I think it's 2 days ago or so on, at age 94. Okay. And even though I never met him or so on, I really loved his performances, especially in them two, Ken Carsby and Mark Matthews, you know. And his passing also made me become very nostalgic about theater back in the day, you know, when Theater Guild, you know, was the premier institution or premier arts institution as it's related to acting and so forth. You know, people like Ken Carsby, Mark Matthews, Ron Robinson, Ray Robinson, Roland Phillips, Margaret Lawrence, yes, Francis Kwame Fario, Andres O'Brien, Roy Brummel from Gangotime, Ronald Hollingsworth, you know. So those are among some of the stalwarts of theater in Guyana. So Ken Carsby, man, rest in peace, and go play with Dave Martins. You know, Dave Martin had actually acknowledged Ken Carsby in one of his tunes. You remember that tune? I hear a story from Ken Carsby.
Yes.
Cricket in the jungle.
Yes. You could sing, man.
Yes.
I never come to the karaoke.
Yeah, so yeah. You know, there's a lot to say today, but I don't know. It's only an hour, and so maybe we'll have to continue the conversation maybe next week or so. But before I get to the whole topic or topics, I noticed a poll is running around, and a lot of people seem to be making issue of this poll. I first learned about it seriously on the Norman Brown show a couple of weeks ago when I was there, and he was referencing it and so on. And at that time, he was asking me to comment. Well, first of all, I can't comment on something that I haven't seen or have read so on. I can't comment on second-hand information based on what you tell me what the poll said and so on. But generally, I said to him, when it comes to Guyana, polls that has to do with elections or around election season really and truly really don't have much worth. And nobody should be paying much attention to them. You know, look, I know something about polling because I did it in statistics and I did it in advanced statistics and all these kinds of things, you know. So polls got advantages, you know. I mean, you know, polls, they can provide some kind of insight, albeit limited, into preferences and, you know, beliefs of groups, small groups of people, you know, and on that basis you can, you know, bend or suit your decision making, your policy making, and so on. You know, polling results also can inform policy, can track, you know, potentially like the income of elections and so on. And also, of course, polls can help candidates and governments to decide where to invest, you know, their time, where to invest their campaign funding, where to invest their human resources and so on. So, I mean, polls got it's positive and so on. And when well constructed and well designed and so on, they can be useful. But in context of Guyana, bifurcated society, heavily racial, heavily ethnic and so on. And, you know, I said bifurcated just now because you have two ethnic groups of people who are almost close in terms of number. When you try to conduct polls in these kinds of society, you really have to be extremely careful of how those polls are designed and so on. Of course, polls are based on sampling, you know, random sampling sometimes. And some of these sampling, they're done by interviews either over the phone or people going into the fields. Now, all of those have enormous biases in them in relation to Guyana. You know, I mean, if you send an Indian person into a black community, predominantly black community, and ask them questions, what you expect to hear? Or what you're likely to hear? Similarly, if you send a black person in an Indian community, what are you likely to hear? Even if you get a response at all. You understand?
You see, that is why when that is why a few weeks ago when my friend and follower viewer Dennis Champagne asked me about the result of the straw poll, I told her to leave me alone. Because anywhere you post that poll, it's going to give you a different result. If that poll is posted on the PPP pages, you're going to get a different result if it is posted on the opposition pages. You know, the PPP might send people to vote on that poll on the opposition pages to give you the kind of interpretation that they want.
You know, so and you know, of course, how the sample was picked. That's the first thing. I mean, I understand this poll picked sampling based on not the current census, unless of course they might have had access to the current census. But in terms of the percentages of representation in population, that's perhaps the 2012 census, based on the numbers that they extracted in terms of the representation, you know. And since apparently the new census, based on what we're hearing, shows some substantial differences to the 2012, it'll be very difficult to use the 2012, which obviously is the only one that you have anyhow, to really say that your sampling is random, number one. Number two, of course, who funded the poll? Who funded the poll could also determine, you know, outcomes of polls. Number three, questions. The structuring of the questions. How were the questions structured? If you can structure questions that inherent bias in them already, or you could structure questions that the answer you already know the answer already, and so on. You know, and then regional distribution of the so-called random sample. You know, how many people you got from Georgetown, where in Georgetown, or how many people you got in region 4, where in region 4, how many you got from region 10 or region, where in those regions and so on, how did you pick them? And so, got a lot of problems with polling in Guyana, so even straw polls the worst of the lot. Those are the worst of the lot. Those depend on who got access to internet, who can get on, who use different combinations. Like you could use 10 different phones and you get 10 votes. Because the straw poll may recognize one phone, but you can go use another one and you get another vote. And you could maybe use a different time of the day and all kind of story, and it will register and so on. So that those are. But the point I want to really raise is that people should not allow that poll that is circulating or any other subsequent poll to get them down, because sometimes polls are also designed to make the people who have requested the poll feel good, and also to make their oppositions or their enemies or their nemesis and all feel bad, right? I mean, if a poll comes out and says, "Oh, X party is going to win by a landslide," that has two effects. It has a euphoric effects on the one party who is going to win by a landslide, and it has a demotivating effect on, if not the other party, then the supporters of the other party feel, well, I throw up my hand by I ain't got to vote because them people gonna win by a landslide. Those are what those polls in these bifurcated societies are designed to do. And I'm saying to people, particularly supporters of the opposition parties, because I ain't know anything about any coalition, I'm saying to them, don't be distracted by these polls. But in any case, we have a lot of sensible people in Guyana. Right? If the PPP love to jump out the front, and they're people like Nakto and Bisram and all them like to jump out the front and all of, people who are going to win by a landslide, they're going to win by 50 seats and all this kind of story. That is what they like to do. They try to demoralize the opposition and the opposition supporters. But there's none of those polls, nor they're saying that has so far been able to show any wipeout of the opposition. Not even the time when Carbon had lost badly, perhaps the worst loss for the PNC. Even then, it wasn't a wipeout. All right. So I tell our people, don't get things. The recent local government polls, the PPP were supposed to win big in Georgetown, in Linden, in New Amsterdam, and so on. They went out there and crowing. We can capture New Amsterdam, we can capture Georgetown, we can capture Linden, and so on. What were the results? Because the polls, they claimed their polls were saying that. What were the results? Right? I remember way back when the AFC was young and coming up, they had parachuted somebody from United States into Guyana, and lo and behold, that man said he did a poll, and he found that AFC was going to win the elections. You remember that? He said that AFC was going to win the elections. I mean, of course, everybody realized that that had to be the biggest joke of that season. And what about our diaspora friends? What about the polls that suggested that the recent elections were close? If not, most of them saying that Kamala Harris was going to win the elections. And what was the outcome? What was the outcome? So once again, I tell our supporters, look, don't get distracted. Get mobilized. Don't get distracted. Get mobilized. And if there's anything to be said, whether we don't adhere to the polls or what, it is the fact that we need to galvanize and organize. Galvanize and organize. It was good to hear that the WPA and the APNU met recently. And these meetings need to be concretized and finalized post-haste. There are too many meetings because after you finalize, there's a lot of work to do. There's quite a lot of work to do. And a lot of talking has been going on so far, but little results to count about. Now, this is February. If my memory serves me well, the coalition of the APNU AFC that resulted in the Hormonson Accord, I believe, was signed in February of 2015. Right? If my memory serves me well, I hope I'm right. So this is February, right? We got another 21 days or they're about to go. Let us use that as the outside milestone to get whatever coalition we wish to get going. Because reality of realities, if it is proven this difficult to put together a coalition, right? I call it coalition of the unwilling because there don't seem to be willing partners coming together here. This is a coalition of the unwilling. And if we use what is credited to Barnum, that the definition of a coalition is a marriage of convenience made in hell. If we add these two together, then I say, why not all the factions and the parties come together, put into a room, and sit down there, and somebody lock it and lose the key until they come out with something that we can run with from now into the election. Can't tell me that you March and then April and May and June, all these outside dates, putting coalition together when they got all these different things to do leading up to election. Let us be very clear for whatever you think about the PPP. They're a well-oiled election machine. They got the advantage of incumbency. They have the advantage of massive monies unheard of in any previous election. And before, they had the advantage of massive sums of money coming to them by private and other individuals, right? Who they claim finance things like their overseas lobbyists and all these kinds of stories. So they have huge advantages. You have little to none, unless you get Elon Musk or one of them to come in and spend a couple of millions, throw a couple of millions here to the opposition parties. So you got enormous disadvantages. You start with, and you adding more and more layers of disadvantages by refusing to come together and form a grand coalition very early, so that the supporters can put a smile on their face. You know, every time I go on the road and I walk, they always, Mr. Jordan, how you do, how things, how we looking? How we looking? That's what they're asking. You could see a bit of fear in their voices, right? Because they believe we continue to scatter and and do everything that is possible to keep us divided rather than united. So for me, I don't want to hear any more about meeting here. We had a good meeting and we had a grand meeting and all kinds of things. The next time I want to hear is that people are announcing a coalition, not of the unwilling, a coalition of the willing, prepared with one objective in mind: to remove the present government. To remove the present government and put in place a government of national unity that will govern for all the people of this country. And that we could get rid of all the sleaze and the lees and everything else, and the drugs and everything else that have now infested this country. You would have thought that with all this money, that we could have breathed easier. Unfortunately, the stench that is permeating the air is killing many of us and choking many of us. We need to breathe again. And the only way we can be able to breathe again is if this government goes its way. And the only way they will go is if you have a united opposition of willing, not unwilling, of willing people, because the enthusiasm will be there and they will be prepared to go and fight 110%. But as of now, I don't know. As I said, there was a start made with the WP and all the enthusiasm I see David with yesterday. But next time around, I don't want to hear anymore. But we met again and we had a good meeting and we had a productive meeting. Those of us who've been around a long time know those are words that are generally used to say nothing much was achieved. You know, we had a productive meeting and we had a good meeting and all this kind of thing. And then you ask what was productive about it. You get, well, we met and, we discussed issues. That's productive. That's not productive. That's not results oriented. That's not results oriented. A productive meeting is that we will sign next week on the dotted line that we will be going in the elections as one. We will be working on the program afterwards, on the final details of the program afterwards. That is a productive meeting. I don't know why productive meeting that says, oh, we met, and we had a good meeting, we had discussions and so on. That's a useless meeting, a productive meeting. So that's my piece on that so-called polls that they are talking about. So our supporters keep the faith. Now, you have this issue of the budget. So the budget ended last night, the whole process, right? The 3 stages process of presentation of the budget speech and the estimates in Parliament, debate on the budget speech, followed by debate on the estimates, interrogation of the estimates, and approval of the measures and call it the 4-stage process. The last one being approval of the estimates, the appropriation bill, and the measures contained in the budget that require fiscal legislation. So you had that. And just as about that process was ending, a statement came out from the Ministry of Finance, obviously prepared before, and crowing about the process and the big budget and so forth. Listen, let me tell you, and congratulating themselves and so on. Let me tell you something. This is not a process to be congratulated. Years ago, when we had those small budgets and a small economy and so on, yes, maybe, right? You had 5 days of speech, right? 5 days of speech, debate on the speech, and then we had about 5 days on the estimates, followed by the approval and so on. In a 1.382 trillion budget, the same system is in place. In fact, worse, because back in the day when I used to do budgeting, way back, not daily after days, way back days, the speech was 5 days, and you had 5 days for the estimates. 5 days for the estimates. And during the time, all the days when I used to do budgeting also, you have the estimates as presented to the National Assembly. And that is what it has to be. It's being presented in National Assembly for discussion, for debate, for adjustments where necessary, and then finally for approval. And then when the final approval comes, all the adjustments that were being made and agreed by the National Assembly will be incorporated into the estimates, and then you print a new estimate as passed by the National Assembly. This whole process has broken down. Why? Because for the last, I would say, 3 decades at least, so that will incorporate our period, no estimate as presented has been adjusted, and with the exception of one estimate, and that took place in the 10th Parliament, the 10th Parliament under Ramatar's presidency, when the combined opposition of APNU plus AFC voted down a program, I think one program of a whole program of the office of the president. And I think it had to do something to do with the Amalia Falls story. I think a lot of people perhaps don't remember that, but yes. So the parliament voted down that. And as you remember, the combined APNU AFC in opposition had 33 seats compared to 32 for the then government of the PPP. Of course, anybody who followed that will know that they had a trail of events that took place as a result of that, because the parliament having voted down that amount for that program, the government proceeded to put back the amount after the appropriation bill was approved by taking the exact amount from the contingency fund. And this behavior was found to be unlawful by Chief Justice Chang. This behavior was found to be unlawful. And I had the task, I'm struggling for the adjective I want to use, because that contingency fund remained unbalanced for a long time until we came in. And I had that task of taking that unlawful act to the parliament to make it lawful so that the contingency fund could be replenished. Right? But that's an aside. There was an interesting part of that judgment, I believe it was, where the Chief Justice said that while Parliament could approve or disapprove the estimates being the government's estimates could not be cut by anybody else other than the government. So I found that I keep reading that, I think, watch that effect, and I keep reading that judgment over and over. I find it to be a very strange development, very strange kind of reasoning, that while Parliament could approve or disapprove the estimates in whole, I think it has to be in whole, so you can't approve or disapprove one part of the estimate, has to approve it in whole. The opposition members could not cut or adjust the estimates because it was the government estimates. Well, that in terms of logics, I found hard to understand, But maybe in law there's nothing logical. Maybe. Because what's the purpose then of the estimates being carried to the parliament? If it's only the government who can adjust the estimates upwards or downwards, then you have no need to take those estimates to parliament. All government has to do is to prepare it every year and work with those as a skeleton plan. They don't have to take it to parliament. What's the purpose of carrying it to parliament? If parliament itself can't adjust the estimates, because approve and disapprove are just, as far as I'm concerned, just semantics. Because if the opposition can't cut the estimates or adjust it upwards or downwards, then it will disapprove the estimates if it has the numbers. But anyway, as I said, that is beside the point. Coming right back to these estimates. If 33, that is greater than 32, is going to be able to approve $1.382 trillion in just about 4 days, that is nothing to congratulate yourself. That is a cause for concern. Because you ask yourself how that can be humanly possible if you are to interrogate the estimates in depth. I had the fortune or misfortune of every now and then listening to part of the interrogation of the estimates. The most of it I listened to is the last one when they came to Ministry of Finance. For obvious reason, I must be interested in Ministry of Finance. But I listened all around, and I was horrified. At what passed for interrogation. Okay? Because in the first place, because they are limited, they're severely limited by this time that they have imposed upon themselves. I don't know what is the hurry. I do not know what's the hurry. You already made the decision that the budget is going to be late. In other words, then it's not going to be available from the 1st of January for spending in the usual manner. You're already late in the budget. So what is the hurry? You have an outside date of April to have the appropriation bill in place. Outside date of April. But you're hurrying now, after you're done late, to finish it by trying to say that you are able to examine the estimates that contains $1.382 trillion. Trillion dollars. And you can be able to do that in 4 days. 4 days. And so what passed for examination was laughable. Laughable. That's the first point I want to make. The second point I want to make is that in almost every situation, the subject minister appeared not to have a broad overall view of what is in the estimates. So in putting together those estimates, I don't know whether they discussed with their officers and so on, whether they sat down ultimately and got a grip of the final product. So you could not put a program to the outcome that you have in the volume 2, which gives the broad program goals and all this kinds of stuff. You could not put them. And this goes for, if not all of them, to be quite honest. One question asked, you say you're going to pick 4 goals, you're going to achieve 4 goals this year. Last year, you said you were going to achieve 4, you achieved 1. So you put back 4 this year. So what are the other 3 goals that you're hoping to achieve this year, and how are you going to go about it? You get a bunch of fumbling, and the long and short is that the spending that you have just asked in request for approval, you don't know how that spending relates to you achieving these goals. This for me, as somebody who's been budgeting for a long time, it's a crying shame, and it's worse with 1.382 trillion. It's worse because ministers come to the parliament and give the impression to the parliament, look, I don't care what you say. I will have the final say because if it put to the vote, I got the numbers. So what's the purpose? That's my point. What is the purpose? The time has come with these kinds of numbers that we have in the budget, when the budget should not be passed by a simple majority. That time has come. We can't be spending $1.382 trillion on the strength that it had been passed over 4 days. We can't. There has to be a new process, a process that is more strenuous, that is more vigorous. And you know, this process is marred by the fact that the opposition, which controls almost 50%, is never invited to be a part of the budget process. They're never invited to be part. So their first intimation about the budget is when it comes to the National Assembly, by which time it's too late. Because based on all the previous indications, the government will not move a muscle. They will not switch even one number, no matter what you say. So this is a major problem. This is not a time for congratulation. This is a time for sorrow. That the process that has taken place over the last 4 days to approve $1.382 trillion is a travesty. And the time has come for that system to be replaced by a more robust system that will involve, and which in itself put governance on the table. The whole issue about governance, especially in a 33-32 situation. Then, when you listen to this process, you recognize, and it is my view, that any incoming government of the opposition, one of the first departments, or among the first departments that must be put in place, is a Doge. Got to be a Department of Government Efficiency. if nowhere else, I mean, Trump has gone off on a blind and a blim and everything else. But Doge, and the Doge is a right idea, but I don't know that they're actually doing it right in the United States in the way how they've done. But we need a Doge in Guyana, a Department of Government Efficiency. When you listen to the various ministers, you realize the level of waste and inefficiency that is taking place in these ministries and departments. I give you a simple example. When you look at how much money per annum the government is spending on, say, vehicles, it's like if the government gone vehicle crazy. It is like if everybody's competing to get the latest. You know, you're driving an X5, I want to extend. The amount of vehicles, the number of vehicles that are being bought every year in the estimates, they cries reason and rationality. Take another example, furniture. It is as if every ministry got to buy furniture every single year. And you don't know where the furniture going. And it's not like if in the past days, back in the day, you used to get wooden furniture. And I didn't say anything wrong. In fact, I love my wooden furniture. I didn't want anything else in my office except wooden furniture. Right? Nicely polished and so on. But you know these people are buying these steel furniture and so on these days. So they may think granny sugar and all these kinds of stories. Maybe they get another kinds of things, but they get about it. But the amount of the number of pieces of furniture, and then, oh my goodness, you will think that Guyana is a computer literate society. The number of computers that are being bought every single year. Yet you can go to every ministry and you do not witness a computerized operation, much less an integrated operation. So, what is the purpose of all these pieces of equipment, office furniture, and vehicles, and all these things that are being bought? And then the various departments that you have, one tripping over the other. You're not too sure what one is doing. You're not too sure where you got to go and all these kinds of things. But you got all these things. And then you add these 28,000 or whatever part-time workers into the milieu. And you understand what you got. So you got the biggest budget ever. You got the biggest budget ever that is going to have the biggest level of inefficiency, built-in inefficiency. So for 1.382 million, anywhere between 15 to 25% can be cut comfortably just on waste and inefficiency that I see. And just by a level of reorganization that can take place to bring about better results than what is. Because the budget is like the Artisan report. Both of them got the sameness about them year in, year out. It's like a template. It's like a template. You're just switching numbers and you're playing with words every year. Switching numbers and playing with words. But it's not achieving. There are no measurable outcomes. There's no different way of doing things. It's just adding a layer on the numbers that you spent last year. The classic last night, I remember. But I had a lot of classics last night that, the classic last night. Question. I think it was asked by Bola Lawrence. Look, last year you spent, let us say, 300,000 on the refunds of revenue. And at that time, let us say, you budgeted 9 million. So why are you budgeting 9 million again this year? What do you think is the answer? Well, this head here, it's a demand-driven head. You know, when people come and ask and so on, you know. And yes, we looked and yeah, the numbers seem to be somewhere around this number here over the last couple of years. So we'll have a look at it again. And look at it again. But you are bringing $9 million. You spent $3 million last year, 300,000 last year, and you can't give a justification for the 9 that you bring in here, and you still get the 9 approved. You can't bring it up. Whereas, if you put there roughly 500,000, you got $8.5 million that can be reallocated to another deserving area. And you see this continuously all over the estimates, all over the estimates, all over the estimates. You're spending $50-something billion on low carbon development initiatives. When asked to whether you produce any reports or so on it, well, look at the royal cussing out. Oh, you had all these monies you were a government minister, and you had all these monies in the APNU government, and you left it lying down there, and you had these solar panels, and a royal cussing out. And what hurt me the most when I was listening to this is that the speaker allowed this to continue. It never answered the question that was asked, but she got a royal cussing out for asking the question. But you're spending $57 billion on the low carbon development initiative, and you can't get an answer for it. You can't get an answer for it. And there's so many more that, you know, you when asked how you come up to 600,000 people for the cash grant, since you're saying that this census, you don't have access to the census and it's not available and whatnot and whatnot. Oh, well, you know, we use different other methods, you know, I mean, we have different, it's a lot of obfuscation, a lot of dilatoriness, a lot of non-answers, and this permeated the entire debate. And this is my problem. You're not asking to spend $10 million or even $10 billion in the entire country. You're asking for permission to spend $1.382 trillion, and you can't get credible answers. So what in average, for most part, for me, were just, you know, here or there questions. They're not interrogative questions. They were playing a kind of tag team relay because the time factor. Because of the time factor, they were kind of play, you know, this person asks 2 questions, the one asks 2 questions, the one asks 2 questions, so on, either for the purpose of the answer or whatever. But there was no integrated whole to the questioning. And that comes about because everybody's trying to get in there too, and they're one, and they're so on. For me, it was a royal puppy show for $1.382 trillion. And this is what I keep stressing. You're asking for $1.382 trillion. And in your statement, you are crowing, you are telling the people. And we have presented a $1.382 trillion budget with no new taxes. They are making taxes into not only a bad word, they are putting taxes in a light which will come back to haunt them down the road. Not only them, it will come back to haunt any new government. Because they are making taxes as if it were a bad thing. Let me tell these people something. You see, in Trinidad, when Trinidad was getting oil a lot and so on, they remove a whole set of taxes. They remove a whole set of taxes. And everybody shout, hooray, this is thing government and so on. When things started to go south, right? The oil finishing, the oil price get low and so on. What is the weapon that they're going to use? That weapon is taxes. You can't be decrying taxes. Everybody is the only thing, 2 things that are certain in life. I can't remember who said it, but I keep quoting. Debt and taxes. What this country needs is severe tax reform. Severe tax reform. In which the taxes that you're paying right now can be redistributed. Right now they are skewed to the persons who face the tax man at source. But an economy that has a high degree of smuggling, that wealth remains untaxed. And until you can do something about it, it's the narrow base that is going to be taxed. So don't crow about no new taxes, because let me tell all our viewers something. It's a switch between taxes and borrowing. Taxes is present day, borrowing is future. Taxes you pay today, borrowing you pay down the road. So you're just switching. No new taxes with a bigger budget and a bigger deficit. How on earth are you financing that deficit when the savings can't finance it in full? You're dragging out almost the entire natural resource fund balance. Hold on, this year is going to be the worst of all the years. You're taking 2.5 billion US out of 2.6 billion US earned last year to finance this year's budget. And yet, that only represents about 30% of the financing of the deficit of this year's budget. So where the rest is coming from? Borrowing. So to finance the deficit, you are financing 70% from borrowing. And you think borrowing is free money? Borrowing means you have to pay back. And while the present generation may saddle with payment a part of borrowing, it is the future generation, the unborn and all those and all of those millennials and whoever else that I call them, Gen Z and all of them today, they're the ones who are going to have to pay back for it. And to pay back, it has to come from government revenue. And where does government revenue come from? Taxes. So hollering no new taxes is just postponing the inevitable down the road, because you still got to finance a large and growing budget deficit. Don't be fooled by these nonsense. Don't be fooled by these. And all this is being done because this is the election year also. All of this is being done. I saw on Facebook this morning an ad out of the Ministry of Human Services as part of our budget speech reaction. We responded something to the effect that under the APNU, PNC APNU, it was the debt they were paying. Each person had a debt of US 3,000, right? 3,000 per head. Now in this budget, we're given 100,000, each baby 100,000 or something to that effect. 100,000. 100,000. So, if you so love babies, why didn't you incorporate the 100,000 throughout? Why only this year? Babies are going to stop born from after 2025? Because it's a one-off. It's a one-off measure designed to fool people, especially poor people. Because rich people in K2 hang about 100,000, they may collect it, but they can't care less. It doesn't really affect them. But and it is designed to fool poor people who, on average, would not get access to it for various reasons. Just like the universal health voucher. Who's going to get access to this universal health voucher? And so on. But there are patchy measures. If you ask the average vendor on the road about universal health voucher, you'll check and see what answer they will give you. I know what answers I get when I ask the people in Main Street Avenue when they ask me what I want them. I say, you hear about the universal health voucher, 10,000. They said, what is the buy? How can I get it? I don't know how you can get it. I don't know how you can get it. They haven't put out how you can get it out there. So you have these things, Kadaki, that are being put out there, forcing to people and forcing them. But back to the budget itself, there's a lot to be unpacked. about this budget. People should not allow it to just go because, okay, it's the end of the budget season and so on. These are monies that are going to be spent recklessly in many cases, where you're not going to see the results. And the opposition, I see they go and they get, well, I know they're tired, they've spent a long time and so on, they had a little fun. You have to add your little fun afterward and so on. But in any new parliament comes up, I hope it's radically different. Radically different. Because the Democrats in the United States, not because they are saying opposition, they are not going to be able to make representation for their constituencies and make certain that it finds its way in the budget. I don't know what representation the opposition was able to make about their constituents, what they have been able to bring to the attention of the government and have it included in the budget. Again, as I said, because you are only involved in the opposition at the level of the parliament, and very minimally, you don't get your say. I mean, you get to say, but you don't get your way. You know? You don't get your way. So what is the purpose of you being in that parliament? Right? And because of they thought I'm going to deal with that next week in a more comprehensive manner. And then you have things like projects appearing in the current, and then they're appearing in the capital. In the current, they're appearing as maintenance. So one person called me and says, "Can we have it?" I said, "No, you can't have it. You can't have it. It's either the project be rehabilitated or it's maintained." You know, people don't understand the concept of deferred maintenance. Look, you can't be changing two zinc sheets on the roof, which might be maintenance. And then when you go in there, you realize all the boards, or what you call them, not rafters, there's another word for them. And finally, they're all rotten. And finally, the beam is rotten. So you say, okay, we are going to put that part in the capital. It don't work like that. Immediately when you attempt to change two boards and you see that, the whole process change. That whole process has to change. It now has become a capital item. And there's certain, what you may call, look, if you don't maintain a road annually, for whatever reason, and if on the third year you decide now to maintain the road, but only this time the road, instead of having one or two potholes and so on, has several potholes, it's no longer maintenance. It becomes deferred maintenance, which is now a capital item. I wrote the manual and all these things, but I don't know. I don't know what has gone wrong. I don't know what has gone wrong. And, oh my goodness, slush funds. Slush funds, Kadaki. I can name you all the slush funds that I saw all day long. Slush funds all over the place. One slush fund called the poverty program. When asked last night, well, can you indicate the different components of this program? Well, the honorable member has been long in this house, and the honorable member knows that that is not the question. That is not the answer, Mr. Speaker. You can't use all these buttery compliments to the honorable member for the honorable member to be lulled into a false sense of silence. I call it buttery. You're buttering the honorable member with a lot of fluff. Answer the question: what are the components of the poverty program? You can't tell me you're putting $100 million here and you don't know what you're going to spend it on. What are the interventions that cause you to put $100 million there? What are the interventions? You got a precise figure called $3 billion under revision of wages and salaries. And every year the question is asked. Every year the question is asked, what is in there? Prior to 2025, there was a lot of hedging and hemming and hawing because you didn't want to indicate how much you put in there for the payment of salary increases. Okay, especially since you had no discussion with the unions. So you didn't want to break it out and say, well, this amount we have put for salary increase and so on, because then you're going to incur the wrath of the unions. But you have already agreed to 8%. With all the unions, you have agreed to 8%. And still, you're fluffing and bluffing as to why you can't break out the components of the revision of wages at $3.something billion. And you don't know what are the components. You've been paying bonus to the discipline services now since you came back. You have an idea of the amount that you pay every year, and still you are not being able to tell the parliament how much you expect to pay this year under that heading. All of this is secret. Fluff and bluff. And this is where I'm saying you butter up the member of the opposition so that they don't insist that you answer the question. And if you can't answer the question, at least you're going to lay over the answer. So why are you asking me to prove $3.something billion without I not even knowing what are the components of it? Look, opposition, I know you don't want to put yourself in this position where you were seen to have voted against the estimate. But listen, that is not the opposition is supposed to depose, expose, and oppose. It's not to be nice to the government. It's not to take little butter up on little compliments here and slink back into silence. If you can't be aggressive in your questioning and your search for the truth and answers, you will be complicit in the inefficiency that is taking place, and that will take place. You will be complicit. There are too many omnibus items in the estimates, too many. And there are large sums. The SLED program, when I created the SLED program in 2015 as a means of helping poor people who can't get access to banks and so on, I started out, I believe, with 115 million thereabouts. Today, when I look at the SLED program is now running into billions of dollars. Billions! At the same time, when you're having programs like the small business program, community programs, Amerindian Fund, poverty programs, all of these are omnibus items that carrying hundreds of millions of dollars. And yet there is no reporting to the parliament. Not even your auditor general who's supposed to give you reports, not financial reports, as seemed to have been the impression last night. Oh, well, with the low carbon development strategy, it is audited. We don't care whether it's audited. That is not the question. The question is, what are the components? How have they impacted communities? How have they made a difference in the life of the people? That is what program budgeting is all about. We're not talking here about the line item, but program budgeting. I think that is what you said. So, Kodaki, I know you say you got to go to 8:30. I have a feeling it's 8:30 or thereabouts already.
Mr. Jordan.
Yes, and so I will continue this discussion in a major way during next week, because, like I said, as a person who's steeped in budgeting and who loves budgeting and so on, and now when we have the wherewithal to really make a difference in budgeting and really make every cent count, it seems that we're going in the opposite direction, where because we got plenty, we could waste it. We don't have to worry and so on. So I will continue this next week. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jordan, for your usual contributions. Well, you heard it there. It's a pity that we had to cut the discussion short. But I have what one might consider an important appointment. And I have to give myself time to get there. Tomorrow I'm going to tell you all this, because quite frankly, it's laughable. But tomorrow I'm going to tell you all this. I don't hide anything. I usually tell you I'm a business, because the people's station number one. And my business always up on the lantern post anyhow. Right? I don't hide certain things because they are sometimes I consider them matters of national interest. And so I'll tell you what it is tomorrow though. Can't tell you ahead of time. I'll say good. See you tomorrow. The financial information up there. If you want to do MMGZL, Cash App, or nothing at all, it's right there. Have a good day. I'll talk with you tomorrow. Much love. Stay safe. Ensure they continue to try to make $1 out of 15 cents. Some of us will succeed. Some of us will succeed. Goodbye, y'all.
Condition coming in.
Morning, are you morning? Are you morning? Welcome to another program of Guyanese Morning Time. I am your host, Kidaki Amsterdam. Y'all don't mind my business. That's where you get in for now. Well, I do it morning outside, eh? All right, and y'all ain't gonna see me for too long because I'm outside for now. Yeah, we got things to talk about, but let me see. Welcome to the program. Give me a thumbs up if you can hear me. Let's start with that. Give me a thumbs up if you can hear me. Welcome. It's Friday, it's Free Talk Friday, and we have a lot of things to talk. I see the viewership is a little low right now, so I'm going to give you some time to share. Share. Right? Share. Good. I'm sure you can hear me. So right now we're talking. You gotta see me for right now. I'm gonna tell you later why you see me for right now. Um, I'm multitasking and I'm multitasking badly. You know, sometimes you ain't got no alternative but to do what you gotta do. We gotta do what we gotta do. I'm still waiting for the thumbs up. If you can hear me, give me the thumbs up. All right. Let me see where I can see. If you give me that thumbs up. Yeah, I'm looking for those thumbs up. Send me those thumbs up. Let me ensure that you hear me clearly before jump into saying, all right, jump in. People are still hearing you. All right, so what's going on? It's Friday morning. It's Free Talk Friday. How you been? How was you yesterday? What happened for you last night? You sleep well last night? You made some money yesterday? Talk to me. I want to know these things. I got some laugh to share with you. But I want you to share the life. Please do. Thank you. Share the life. Call a friend. Tell a friend. Tell them that, we on this morning as usual. Call a friend, tell a friend. We live and we on this morning. As usual, we're going to talk about them. I'm going to tell you why I called the program at 8:30 yesterday. Maybe some of y'all know by now, because nothing is private in this country anymore. Hola, doy. Yeah, I see yesterday the ballet tyrant held a press conference. I am sure y'all saw that press conference, and the man said, listen, I care what y'all say, We don't get Eramad the land, and we ain't got no apology for make. Right? But just like when you're comparing chalk to cheese, the ballet tyrant decided that he was going to justify giving the land to El Ahmad by comparing it to land that was given to Nigel Hughes under totally different arrangements. Right? And I will say, Guyanese, I pay attention. If I want to pay attention, it's your fault. African Guyanese, pay attention. If I want to pay attention, it's your fault. Because there's one thing that is happening in this country that you could run from, but you can't hide from. And that is the PPP and their comrades are interested in taking over Guyana. Taking over Guyana. We know that all the time. Modi say Guyana is a mini India. We know that all the time. But every day it becomes clearer and clearer that the PPP doesn't have any shame. They have no consideration whatsoever for the people of this country. They are set in their ways and they are convinced that regardless of what they do, Guyanese will not get them out of office. And note I say Guyanese will not get them out of office because the legitimate way to get them out of office is by the vote. But the question is, are Guyanese united enough to get them out of office by the vote? That's the question. Are Indo-Guyanese recognizing that while the PPP is giving them pittance at 250 here in a food hamper bag, at 250 there, 150 there as a grant and so on and so forth? Are they recognizing that the best parts of the cake, if you want to call it that, the bigger slices of the cake is going to those who already have enough and too much, if you ask me? Are they recognizing that? Or are they going to continue to hold on to this foolishness that, a big government and a big prefer suffer a big government than anybody else? Or them a do good for me. Them a give away 500, $250,000 every now and again. When if the resources are properly managed, we all can get way more than $250,000 every now and again. Right? In any other society where this kind of graft, corruption, nepotism, call it what you like, is exposed, the people would have been up in arms against this government. They allow them to misappropriate our funds. We allow them to disrespect our representatives in the House of Parliament. I'm going to show you in a bit a question that was asked of Sitara Gal more than 6 months ago. And then the answer which was provided, to the National Assembly and accepted by the lowest. The lowest, there's a word in English language for the lowest, that's nadir. And some people are name and nature, true to form. True to form. And if that is not disrespect for the people of this country, just like Jagio said when they were asking about the what we call it, feasibility study. He said, you're going to ask Exim Bank for it. Ask Exim Bank. So the people of this country elected Exim Bank to govern, right? So when citizens have inquiries, they must ask Exim Bank. Because Exim Bank is their government. Imagine you submitting a question to the National Assembly as the people's representative, and the minister having the temerity to tell people it's public knowledge. It's public knowledge instead of responding to the question in a parliamentary manner. That's what we're living with. It's Free Talk Friday. I tell you, I'll share the live. You aren't sharing enough. Share the live. And let me tag the thing. Because we have a lot of things to talk. let's take you back in history. Several you remember that? Yeah, I remember it because at that time I argued that it was the minister of housing and the government of Ghana in particular that had created the conditions for malfeasance to take place. Because of the long delay in issuing lands to applicants and so on, it is the government and the minister that had made it possible for people to get desperate enough to offer bribes to people who certainly took them and took advantage of those people who were willing to pay. I remember vividly, you know what happened after that program? That program, I think, was broadcasted on a Thursday. I'll tell you all this story, just recapping it. The Friday, I was in Stabrook Market, morning unit at Yon's Fashion Pro or whatever the business is named. I can't recall the exact name, but at Yonet's business, located opposite the old GNCB Bank. So those of you looking for sewing supplies and so on, you can go there. Yon's Fashion. Right. I was standing there with Yonet, and I got a phone call. Is this Kilaki Amsterdam? Yes. Mr. Amsterdam, have you ever received land from the Ministry of Housing? Said, no, y'all never give me none. Please come to the Ministry of Housing Monday morning. And of course, they asked other questions about income and this and that and the other. Please come to the Ministry of Housing Monday morning with $100,000. Now, at the time I said to you, here it is, you're calling an ordinary Guyanese citizen to find $100,000 within 72 hours, 96 at most, to come and pay for a piece of land. Nevertheless, I went. And I signed up the documents. I paid for my land, a down payment. I think the time period was 3 or 6 months to pay the rest. And I paid the rest. I remember I paid the rest just around July of last year, sometime around my birthday. And I heard nothing from then to now. But then another scandal broke, isn't that so? We learned recently that friends and cronies of the PPP, namely a man named Dr. Baldio, you all see the Travis Chase interview. I don't have to go into the details of that. Who got access to about 30 acres of land, plus 30 plus acres of land. We learned that convicted criminal, a man who is prohibited from the United States government from dealing with anything to do with real estate at Ahmad. I received large plots of land from the government of Ghana, namely the PPP, let me be specific, at peppercorn rates. We learned that the then CEO of Central Housing and Planning Authority Sharon Greaves, just around the time that the lands were issued to El Ahmad, etc., Baldio, etc., the land deals were taking place. Sharon Greaves acquired at least 2 properties in the US. Through some arrangement with Baldio and Baldio's real estate company, if I can call it that. The man has a lot of companies, a lot of shell companies, I dare argue. And as a result of that expose, what happened? Green tendered his resignation with immediate effect. Greaves, I mean, not Green, Greaves, Sharon Greaves. And of course, he said, listen, I resigning because you have vilified me. Y'all were unfair to me. I didn't join public service to such vilification. Everything I earned, everything that I acquired came through legitimate means. Yet there is no evidence of a mortgage, for example, being taken to pay for that $700,000 or $750,000 US property. In short, there's no evidence to suggest that here, indeed, the monies to fund these acquisitions were legitimate. I don't know, sometimes it's old money. Like when you finally acquired the Houston estate property, I think it was Houston estate property. He said his inheritance, man. As a matter of fact, we're now learning that Ed Ahmad also acquired a large section of that property there, right? Houston or Wales? Y'all forgive me. I ain't got a geography. I used to teach geography, but I ain't got a local geography. Yeah. So, what happened after that scandal? I'll tell you some things that happened after that scandal. That Paul got onto his program, I think it's called Issues in the News, and sought to justify, or some will say distance himself from the transactions over housing. What did he say? The government doesn't monitor everything that goes on at housing. They don't get daily reports of what went on at housing. In short, they don't micromanage, and so on and so forth. And so, whatever went on at housing, the government was not held responsible for. Well, I want to see, as far as I know, with the Duns president, PhD from IFLOC University, the box stops there. Ministers are agents or servants or representatives of the president. And so don't come and tell us bull that the government or the president, head of government, doesn't know what is happening in a ministry of his government. Then he should be fired for incompetence. Just like the other ministers should be fired for incompetence. Just like Deadfowl should be fired for incompetence. If I were the employer of Deadfowl and he talked that nonsense in the public, I'd fire him. Because he deserves the money getting paid. I might think it's a joke. That is poor advice. I don't pay for poor advice. Good? So that was the first salvo. They tried to kerfuffle the Guyanese people by telling them, listen, or at least the intellectually lazy, I should say, because those who are intellectually capable ain't gonna believe that nonsense. What went on at housing is it went on under the nose of the cabinet, senior ministers of government, and so on, unknown to them. No, the PPP doesn't operate like that. In fact, government ought not to operate like that. Any government. Can you hear me now? Give me a thumbs up if you can hear me now.
All right, listen. Yeah, sound me like a robot. Something I gotta adjust.
Good. All right, you're getting me better then. All right. So let's go to a musical break. I'll come back and I'll continue from where. Please indicate to me what is the last thing you heard. And I'll continue from there. Let's have a musical break, man. It's Friday.
I sit down at home beside the to watch some TV, listening to the news like Gordon Mosley. I listening to the things that he say he trapped in tonight, paying close attention to make sure I hear it right. But when I hear the things that he mentioned on the news, I had to declare them kind of thing got me confused. I hear some things where the ERC noticing, and it convinced people that people ain't learning nothing. We hear so many times about them big name calling, and they say the ERC pretend that they didn't learn nothing. But once you're black and you just decide to say a word or two, bet your life on that. They say the ERC coming for you. Listen to the things you just hear on social media. Only one set of people allowed to talk in one Guyana. I still say nothing, black people ain't learning. But this is my concern. I hope one day that people will learn. Something this ERC that I would like to know. If any of its members happens to be black people, and if that is the case, I want them to answer this call. Tell me how come none of them ain't got no voice at all. You're showing signs of weakness and you're afraid to be fair. And we see the same thing keep happening year after year. And the day will come when all this nonsense will stop. That will be the day when black people decide to wake up. Not so long ago, something terrible happened. This young Indian man want to kill out all black people by poison. But if his shoes was on the other foot, would have been a big threat. But up to this day, this TRC can't do nothing as yet. How come it's only black people committing cybercrime? When critics on social media fussing people all the time, I still say black people in learning. But one day will come when the entire table will turn. Issues we see that fail to condemn because these people think that the law is only for them. And anybody else who decide to file a complaint, they go call you a racist and don't want to hear nothing. Plenty complaint from time to time has been brought to their attention, but because of this one-sided cybercrime, is why they don't show any concern. There's only one set of people that they really care about, and the people must take the abuse and shut them out. Kidaki Amsterdam went to court just recently for an issue that was highlighted by the same ERC. And the pretext the police decide to jump on his case. Without a search warrant, they went and search up the man's place. Let us all agree that black people under attack. Different laws for you and me just because we black. I still saying, black people in London. To all my black friends, we must put a stop to all this nonsense. Cybercrime laws to keep people silent, just to make sure nobody criticizes this government. And while that is a very practice of dictatorship, it is no surprise that the ERC ignoring it. Why only the chosen few is allowed to have things their way, when people like me and you must have nothing to say? And when ministers in the government start to launch their attack, you never hear this ERC come out and talk about that. They send a policeman all the way to New York. This fella went up there to someone on report. And that is it. This government decided to fabricate that case. But like they forget the one and made the problem T-shirt jails. The vice president described that the use as a low life. Because of this kind of abuse, he don't have a wife. I still singing. Black people in the Lord. Just the other day, I would have and see help is on the way.
It's karaoke and oldies night this and every Thursday with Al Christie and popular DJs at Club Twilight Sideline Buxton North.
Here, trust me, if you are on the East Coast, you're in Buxton, you're in town, you're looking for a place to get away, that this is the place. The cutters, and then of course the ambience is beautiful, fully air conditioned, the decor is on point, the music's on point, everything's on point. So if you want to find a nice little place where you can just drive out of town and have some drinks, have some food, you can call, you can order your stuff and just take it. You don't have to stay. Or if you want to stay here, that's what's up. And of course, they have special events for Valentine's. You can rent the hall. You can rent the hall, honey. You can rent the hall for weddings, for birthday parties, to have a bash. I hope he edits that out. But you know, whatever it is, this is definitely the place to be. So it's on Sideline now. You definitely want to ensure that you check this place out. But it's on your to-do list. All right, on your to-do list. This is definitely the place to check out, you know, a really cool, chill spot here in Buxton. I like this. This is, Buxton needed this. We needed this. I needed this. You definitely needed too. All right, so today we are here at Club Twilight up in Buxton, and we are here to talk about all that's going on up here. Trust me, if you are on the East Coast, you're in Buxton, you're in town, you're looking for a place to get away, that this is the place. The cutters, listen, I'll be having some just now again. We'll talk about that. And then, of course, the ambience is beautiful, fully air conditioned. The decor is on point. The music's on point. Everything's on point. It's just me. I need some work. But everything else that belongs to this club here is on point. So if you want to find a nice little place where you can just drive out of town and have some drinks, have some food, you can call, you can order your stuff and just take it. You don't have to stay. Or if you want to stay here, that's what's up. And of course, they have special events for Valentine's. You can rent the hall. You can rent the hall, honey. You can rent the hall for weddings, for birthday parties, to have a bash. I hope he edits that out. But you know, whatever it is, this is definitely the place to be. So it's on Sideline now. You definitely want to ensure that you check this place out. But it's on your to-do list. All right, on your to-do list. This is definitely the place to check out, you know, a really cool, chill spot here in Buxton. I like this. This is, Buxton needed this. We needed this. I needed this. You definitely needed too. Thank you.
So we're back. Running around like headless chicken. Go to Ashton's Marketplace for whole and cut chicken, beef, pork, processed meats like bacon, beef franks, smoked ham, ground pork, calabresa, and lots more. Ashton's offers wholesale and retail. Check them out. Call 613-2332 or WhatsApp 434-327-3955. Ashton's Marketplace at 72 Rock Street, Border.
All right, so you might be wondering where we are. Still in Buxton at Club Twilight. That's where we are.
Yeah, we're still on the program at Guyanese Morning Time. We're still on CAMS TV. Yes, so I see somebody saying 10 minutes of silence. Where does 10 minutes of silence leave us? I don't know. But did you hear me explain or mention to you that following the scandal with Greaves, after Greaves' resignation, Dead Fowl sought to distance the government from what was happening over at Ministry of Housing. Did you hear that? I think you would have. And then I went on to say that simultaneously yesterday, The Barlet tyrant, the so-called vice president, sought to justify the granting of lands to convicted felon, if that's the correct terminology, Ahmad. And his justification is, listen, Ahmad is entitled to land like anybody else, like any Guyanese. But Ahmad is somebody who's convicted in the US, and the US courts should have nothing to do with real estate. As a matter of fact, he is under an order of restitution, and that he is supposed to be paying back people that he defrauded according to the courts. But here it is, he is being given large spots of land all over the country. According to Kaicho News, let me tell you where they know that he has land. 12.5 acres of land in Letem for the cultivation of soya bean. Another 30 acres of prime lands at Ogle on the east coast of Demerara for real estate purposes. 6 acres at Diamond on the east bank. Another 5 acres of prime land on the Heroes Highway near Mocha, Arcadia, and 17 acres at Leonora. I ain't counting, but let me start counting now. So it's 12.5 plus 30, that's 42.5. Plus 6 is 48.5. Plus 5 is 53.5. Plus 17 is 70 acres of land, 70.5 acres. I bet y'all didn't know it's so much land. If you all know it's so much land, give me a thumbs up. I bet y'all didn't know it's so much land. It's 70.5 acres of land, because I'm now doing the math according to Kaicho's publication. One man, a convicted fraudster, being given 70.5 acres of land, while the ordinary citizen who have applied since Noah was a boy can get 7 inches of land. But the Barlet tyrant justifies it. And he said, we got a right to give Ahmad land. We ain't got no apologies to make for that. Because the coalition was also selling land to people for development. I want him to show where the lands that were sold by the coalition to people were sold to convicted felons or convicted fraudsters, whatever you want to call it. I want them to show where those lands only went to friends, favorites, and families. He tried to equate the land acquired or lands acquired by Nigerians to those lands given to Ahmad. First and foremost, from a post made by Nigel, backed up by other people I know, the lands Nigel acquired are not prime real estate lands. They're not prime real estate lands. They form into the real categorization, I think, of agricultural lands. Them they're way out into the interior, place named Goat Farm, I think. We Guyanese usually say Goat Farm. But I started by telling you that when that scandal broke last year or the year prior, where people were fired from housing ministry and so on because of corruption, I got called to called for a piece of land or called for what they call it, allocation of a piece of land which I had applied for. It's more than a year in my calculation, or almost a year from my calculation, since I would have completed paying for that land. And then many others who would have also completed paying for their lands, and long before me, prior to me, and so on. But day before yesterday, which would have made it Wednesday, I got a call. I got a call on Wednesday. Guess what? CHNPA was ready to take allottees to the lands that they were allocated or allotted. And that is why I ended the program at 8:30 yesterday, because they said I had to reach at 9 o'clock at Luziknan, Second Concrete Bridge, blah, blah, blah. I even asked the young lady, I said, can't I reach a little after 9? She said, no, 9 o'clock is when the surveyors will be moving from that point to take you to where your land is. Like every other ordinary citizen, I'm entitled to a piece of land which I applied for, and of course I want it. I told you guys when I return, I will tell you this story because it's laughable. Why you think it's laughable? It is laughable from where I sit because it takes a scandal. It takes a scandal for the state, for the government, for the PPP operatives, the PPP ministers and representatives to give to Guyanese citizens what is rightfully due to them. It took a scandal. It took the Shorin Greaves, Baldio, Ahmad scandal, land corrupt practices being unearthed before people have paid the Ministry of Housing for lands since Noah was a boy could be allocated a land. And that is what makes it laughable. So wait, Guyanese can only wait for them for there to be a scandal before they can be assured of getting a plot of land which they applied for since whenever? And then Caroline Rodriguez had the temerity to post up yesterday photographs of people putting stakes on the lands that were identified. And I would say boasting that over 140 persons received land title, well, not land titles, land allocation yesterday. Let me see if I can find it. I'm told here by a viewer it's more than 2 years since a relative completed paying for land and they ain't get nothing yet. Right? So here is Susan Rodriguez's post. Let me find it. I'm going to tell you all another story in relation to that. Earlier today, 150 families who were previously allocated low-income residential lots in the new Two Friends Phase 2 housing development participated in a lot identification exercise. Meanwhile, infrastructure works are ongoing in other sections of the scheme to ensure access to other allottees. It was only a lot identification exercise, people. You went and identified lots. What I also identified is that there's no light and water in that area yet. There's no light and water in that area yet. The roads are not completed in that area yet. No, Dennis, this is not a color t-shirt I had on. I'll show you what I had on. And I'll show you how they took my photograph. A set of scamps and vagabonds. Right? So yes, people got the opportunity, if you can call it that, to identify the lots after paying for years. because I'm sure there are people who paid longer than I am. I want to share some of the comments on our post from people. I'm still waiting to be called since 2009. That is one person. Since 2009. Note who was in government in 2009. I'm still waiting for a call since 2015. I'm still waiting since 2011. Right? I'm looking for timelines so I can share those timelines. A question is asked, what happened to people's transport from 4 years ago in Barbie's Port Ordinance for lands that were paid in full? I'll explain that to you just now. All right, let me stop a pin right there. Stick a pin, as I like to say right there. I want to point you to that particular question. What happened to titles to the people who paid 4 years ago at Port Ordinance? Where is Port Ordinance in Barbados? Who lives in Port Ordinance? What the population, the ethnic composition of the population looks like in Port Ordinance? 4 years ago, who was in office? Why those people have not gotten titles? You know why they have not gotten titles? Because like Nigel Hughes, they got access to land under the coalition government. They were allocated lands under the coalition government. And despite the fact that they paid for those lands in full, the PPP, Susan Rodriguez and Colin Cole and all of them over at the CHP continues to frustrate their efforts by not giving them titles. That is economic oppression, is economic apartheid, because there are areas where PPP supporters have paid for land after. And they've won titles. But like Nigel Hughes is saying, the aim is to frustrate the African Guyanese. He can't get a final lease of the lands that he acquired, lease lands that he bought. I would say he bought the rights from somebody who held them before. He can't get the lease completed so that he can proceed with his investments. Because the PPP would want to see him suffer like they want to see the average African Guyanese suffer. People completed paying 4 years ago and they ain't get no title because they were issued those lands under the coalition. Likewise, remember, as soon as the PPP went into office, they were hounding people like Savon's Waste Management and so on, Car Care Enterprises, because they were allocated lands for development under the coalition. And so I hope you're seeing the pattern. As long as the people who have allocations don't look like those in the PPP and are not friends, favorite, and families of the PPP, they will give them a hard time. They will frustrate them. Remember those people who were given that low income, that I think middle income housing deal, 50 for 50, where they were given a 50% break in keeping with Guyanese's anniversary and so on through the Ministry of Housing. You remember how, like they are doing to Nigerians right now, refusing to accept his rent for the lease lands? They refuse to accept final payments for the people who had benefited from that arrangement under the coalition government. Don't be short-sighted. Don't forget who you're dealing with. And don't forget your actions. This thing about land allocation now is a smoke screen. Yeah, let me excite them a little bit by identifying lots. Not by giving them title, but by identifying lots. Let us excite them so they will take their eyes off of the corruption that is happening at the Ministry of Housing right now, especially in an election year. Let us distract them so we will allocate more of the lands available to our people, just in case we lose the election. Like they did years ago with the spectrum. Let us allocate the available spectrum, the waves, to our people. So even if we're out of government, we will control the communication networks like they're doing currently. I hope you all see this. And I hope you recognize the importance of getting the vote out. Because the only way to save something for yourselves in this country is by getting the PPP out. It is by getting the PPP out. I'm a proponent of coalition government. I believe any coalition government will do way better than the PPP is doing for the people of Ghana. I believe people will stand a better chance of getting out of poverty. I believe there will be less discrimination. I don't think there is any society where there is no discrimination, but I believe there will be less discrimination. And so I want you to recognize those things. 150 house lots identified. What the measurement is 50 by 80. How many acres is 50 by 80? How many times a 50 by 80 plot of land can go into 70 acres? Given to a convicted fraudster. And when you do the math and you understand what's happening, ask yourselves how much longer will you allow that to continue happening. Denise brought up the talk about what I was wearing when I collected or went to get that plot of land. Identify that plot of land, let me see. I'll show you. Because I'm pissed, like I said. And when I saw it, you know me, I don't cover my mouth. I wasn't even aware that there was a roving cameraman. And that's why I conduct my business in public. I always tell y'all, I ain't got secrets, I don't hide nothing. And a roving cameraman taking out people's photographs without their permission. Right? And so when I got home, somebody sent me a link to this photograph. That's me right there. Right? That's me right there. And so my immediate reaction was to message Susan, Susan Rodriguez's page. And my comments were to the extent of, you are unprofessional, you do business in an unprofessional way. My acquisition of land or my acquisition is my private business. And I did not give you nor your servants permission to use my photograph. I find your way of doing business quite unprofessional. My acquisition is my private business. I have not given you nor any of your servants permission to utilize my photo. Kindly remove it from your page immediately. Thank you. Unprofessional people. That was my comment. Right? That was my comment. Of course, nobody responded. Of course, the photograph is still on your page. Kirk, I have no problem if they put me all over the page. Because like I usually say, I don't conduct my business in secrecy. You knew, all of you knew, or most of you knew, from the time they called me for that land. Because I told you about it. And I'm repeating it. Every time there's a scandal at the Ministry of Housing, or the 2 times the Ministry of Housing called me in relation to land allocation, is when they had scandals. Right? Is when they had scandal. But I challenge Susan Rodriguez and those over the Ministry of Housing, just as how they post the photographs of ordinary Guyanese citizens identifying house lots, 50 by 80s. I challenge them. Look here. Right? Photographs of people not even, in some instances, aware that their photos were being taken. No permission granted to take anybody's photograph. At least certainly not mine. Right? I challenge them to publish the photographs I challenge them to publish a photograph of them giving 70 acres of land at different intervals to Eramad. I challenge them for that. I challenge them to publish photographs of all of their friends and cronies and favorites that they have given large swaths of land to. Not a 40 by 50 by 80 or whatever it is. Let them publish the doling out of the nation's resources to their friends, family, and favorites. The small things. They wouldn't. They won't. Because people recognize the corruption in it, in those transactions. But these are transactions that are not corrupted, at least most of them, at least certainly not mine. Without permission, they publish people photographs. Look, we give them land. We give them land after the scandal broke. And one man convicted of real estate fraud got more than 70 acres of prime real estate in this country at peppercorn rates. If Guyanese don't see enough reasons to vote the PPP out of office, I don't know what else would make them see. The lines are open. 6225933 is the number to call. You're tuned into the Guyanese Morning Time. My court is a people's court. At least in most matters, I'd rather try them in the court of public opinion. I ain't got nobody to quote because they publish a photograph of mine without, especially as a decent photograph, without my permission. Let us try and use it in a campaign ad. Then we're going to see the difference. Call you on.
President, good morning to you, the listening viewers in Guyana here and around the globe. My thing this morning is Guyanese must vote that PPP must never ever be back in the political arena again. That doesn't good. They're not good. With all the madness that they're doing, they're not good. And take, for instance, if the simple cash grant they can't cheer up to now, how they gonna run a country? They're not good. And if the PPP know what good for themselves, They should know that Jadu is not good for political arena by now. He is the one that's sitting and messing up the whole country. That is my contribution this morning. Have a blessed day.
Thank you for your call. The lines remain open. 6225933 is the number to call. You tune to the Guyanese Morning Time. I saw a post, I've said it before. I'm not rejoicing at people's discomforts and so on. Call you on.
Good morning, Mr. Amsterdam. How are you this morning? I would like you to touch on a different topic. Did you happen to read this guy, this economist, Rennie Paris article last Sunday in the Culture News?
Hold on.
Yeah.
I'm the editor in chief. I decide what is discussed. Have a good day. Call you on.
Mark,
Morning.
on?
Yes, you are.
Good. All right. Morning, listeners. I like to go to the continent and bring things home. What a coincidence that happened during last week in South Africa. In 1913, blacks were only allowed to own 7% of the lands. The whites, apartheid people, right, they took away the rest of the lands. President Ramaphosa last week signed into bill, into bill, and it's in the Constitution too, that Expropriation Act, whereas the lands that are there are not being used, they got acres upon acres upon acres upon acres of land not being used by these people, they're going to take them back without compensation and for public use, not for any private use, public use so citizens could gain from it. We need, when we get into government, and not if we get into government, when we get into government, we put the Expropriation Act into place and take away anything that is not above board, everything without compensation. You got to get rough with these people. You got to get rough with them, right? And it's a must, and it got to happen. We don't care who on the outside is going to say that you're doing wrong. Robert Mugabe did it because his people was robbed of the land. Now Ramaphosa is doing it, and it's time for our people to get into the line and do it. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Part of the undertakings when a lot of these lands have been issued, I read some of them about the lands that were issued to Ed Ahmad, is that you have certain deadlines, timelines. And naturally, if you don't meet those deadlines, those timelines, the lands can be taken back from you. And I'm saying it again. Let the power fall on I. Let the power fall on I. When the coalition goes to government, if anybody doesn't want to do the nasty work, you tell me, man. I'd like to go after the state's property, the people's resources, and recollect it and redistribute it to those who are deserving. That's what I'm asking for. Call you on.
Good morning, Mr. Amsterdam. Good morning to the Guyanese diaspora. It is only Guyana government who continues to sell persons for 200 square foot land and feel they achieve something with the size of Guyana. That's handed down from the British, and they continue to do the same damn thing for poor people. When you speak about the acre of land, you can have 13 houses, 13 house plots on an acre of land. For those persons who doesn't know what is a house plot compared to an acre of land, that is the amount of land house plot you can get in an acre. In sync is a need is the minimum size of a house plot is 5,000 square foot, and it is law. It is law. Anything below 5,000 square foot planning would not pass a drawing. And that to show you how these people in Guyana is backward. How they're going backwards and pushing the poor people into a slush box, where they jam up to one another with the size of Guyana. Secondly, I used to work for a guy who is an attorney by law, and started accounting work in Florida. Just 3 years ago, he was telling me about the list that's going on for development, how the Indians in Florida were buying lands in Guyana. And that is the PPP man show, to grab all the land that's available in Guyana. And the Afro-Guyanese are sleeping. As the caller rightly said, we must take back every piece of land that one family or more than one family is grabbing in this country whenever we get back to the power. Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you for your call. Guyana is perhaps the only place where politicians get to do wrongs, a lot of wrongs, and nobody takes action even after they leave office to right the wrongs. Right? We got to change that. Call you on.
Hello?
Call you on. Caller, you are on. Call is not ready. Call when you're ready. I was saying I saw a post from Terence Campbell. I've been seeing a lot of posts from Terence recently. And Terence said, listen, he was very critical of the coalition in office. But now, you realize that Jack Dio and the PPP is the devil itself. And he misses the coalition. He even misses Harmon. Like he had a real dislike for Harmon for whatever reason. But he said he even misses Harmon in this period here. Right? Some people say confession good for the soul. I will say hindsight is 2020 vision. I said it before. A lot of people who were critical of the coalition are now realizing that the coalition was, by leaps and bounds, a better government. Not the best government, but a better government than the PPP. And I believe with time and pressure, Guyanese could have gotten them to be a better government. But they never gave them the chance. The international community never gave them the opportunity. They didn't even get a one term. Right? They perhaps get 3/5 of a term. And from that 3/5, I can say by leaps and bounds, they were way better than the PPP. But it is what it is. The good thing is that whenever the elections are called, we get a second opportunity to right the wrongs. I hope we make good use of it. What are you on?
Hear me?
Call you on.
Yes, good morning to you and all my black brothers and sisters in Guyana. Let me take a minute and ask you a question. Can I ask you that which village or which city or which state that your land located, if you don't mind?
They got some place they call in 2 friends now. Is the back of Gurup.
Back of Gurup?
Yes. The western side of the prison road.
What Gurup?
Based on Google Maps, it's about 27 minutes drive from where I am right now to the location.
Okay, I'm not getting personal this morning. Gurup is East Indian neighborhood or African Guyanese neighborhood?
Gurup is predominantly Indo-Guyanese. Gurup
Thank you very much.
Go ahead.
Case closed. Case closed. Case closed. Case closed. You remember, you always said, let yesterday be today. And you always tell us that what the government is doing is removing black people from their neighborhood and put them in their supporters' neighborhood. So when time for vote, you guys may go and vote for who? For your party, PNC and WPA. But then they're going to use back that address. My God, my God. They will use back the same address and put it in your box. Therefore, when we vote one time, when you vote one time, you automatically vote for them too. This is not nonsense. What sweet a goat mother's better ASS. That me go, I'm going to teach me. Move on. for black people to get out of poverty. My advice to Abinatu, when you go in office, the first thing you must do in parliament is to pass the law that every 10 years must be election. That is the only way black people could get out of poverty and slavery. So you will have the first 10 years for put things out. If we say that PPP must not rule until Thy Kingdom come, which are the code that I always said, we go rule for 50 years. No, you got to put things in place for do the same thing too. Rule for that you could take out and really take away the president. I did not must pass the law for every 10 years must be election for you. Because you don't know if you get one more shower, that's outside there too. Thank you very much for your time. Happy weekend to you.
Thank you for your call. Call you on.
Good morning.
Good morning,
I want to share with you and the public a serious laughter. Day before yesterday, I was driving from Georgetown to Linden. When you get on the highway to Linden, almost Linden, and you pass the checkpoint at Bamia, and you come around the corner, 25 feet of road, the people put an excavator, rip up the highway, throw the traffic into a problem, dump the stuff that is scarified to the side of the road. And then the next morning, there was this picture in the news that the road rehabilitation between Linden, Soosdijk, and Georgetown has begun. It's a serious laughter, but that's how these people fool the Guyanese people. And people must drive and go to these locations where they see these things in social media. You have to see this thing. The men that were walking in front of the escalator were laughing and said, damn, you could see they're having fun doing propaganda work for the PVP. Send somebody to see it. 25 yards of road scarified. Thank you.
Thank you. You heard it for yourself. The PPP is a propaganda government. And I don't know why it is the Guyanese people are not recognizing that is all the PPP is about. Propaganda. I mean, as we usually say, one time something not done something. Right? You fool me once. Then maybe I was gullible. But then when you fool me 2 and 3 times after, it got to be me. I doubly stupid. Call your life. Call you on. Caller, you're on. Caller, you are on. Seems the call is getting connection issues. Yes, it's now a minute to the 9 o'clock hour. It means it's time for me to wrap the program. It is Friday. You know what happens on Friday. You know what happens on Friday, so time for me to go. I trust I've been able to bring you enough information this morning that you can think on. I guess I trust I've been able to create the linkages so you can see where the con is. I wish I could have spent a little longer with you this morning, but time is of the essence. There are lots of other things to get done. And I always remind you, I still gotta live, I still gotta earn. So sometimes I can, depending on my schedule, I can stay a little longer with you than other times. Today's one of the days I have to beat out, as they say. But those of you who are Oldies lovers, on the 28th of February, we are hosting an Oldies here. It is supposed to be a Thursday night. Yes, Thursday the 28th of February. We're hosting the first in a series of Olies. Big people Olies with Blue Ribbon the boss. Right? So start to spread the word. 28th of February. We have Blue Ribbon in the boss at Club Twilight. Blue Ribbon the boss at Club Twilight. Olies are goldies. Golden Olies session. Come on down and have a good time. Of course, we are hosting for the Valentine, February 14. Love is in the air at Club Twilight. And so if you're looking for a place to go and have lunch or dinner, just reserve, do your reservation, 6225933, because we're catering by reservation only. If you want to come and dance the night away, that's okay. But if you want to dine, that's by reservation only. And have a good one. Much love. Keep on watching everybody's back, you know. Keep your eye out. Continue to be a soldier for the revolution. Goodbye. I'll see you when I see you. Not most likely is Monday by God's grace. Goodbye.